Mr. President, I have filed today and would like to insert in the record, if I may be granted, the Senate joint resolution that I have filed today.
Without objection.
Mr. President, this is a resolution that will express the authorization for the use of United States Armed Forces against the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. Mr. President, it is a resolution that has been necessitated by legal scholars since the President has used his existing authorization for the use of military force in Iraq, most recently against ISIS, ISIL, ISIS, it's the same thing. The Levant is that area broadly from about Baghdad all the way to the Mediterranean. That's ISIL. ISIS, ISIS, is the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. And of course, we know that this organization that is calling itself an Islamic Caliphate, it knows no jurisdictional boundaries. It has taken large swaths of territory in Syria as well as Iraq. And when the President successfully employed the use of air power, both manned and unmanned, against ISIS targets as they were marching toward Erbil, the capital of Kurdistan, and then likewise as they were marching toward the Mosul Dam, the President used his authority in Iraq and also his authority as Commander-in-Chief to protect Americans. There are Americans in Erbil, there are Americans in Baghdad, there are Americans in other places in Iraq, and the protection of the dam in Mosul was to protect those Americans downriver, because if the dam were blown, that would have flooded all downriver and it would have flooded Baghdad. Legal scholars disagree with me that the President has the authority under the Constitution as Commander-in-Chief to go after ISIS in Syria. I describe ISIS as a snake. If the head of the snake is in Syria, which it is, a lot of their organization, a lot of their leadership is there, then we ought to go after the snake where the head is and decapitate the snake. In doing that, we're going to have to go into Syria. Now, I believe that the President has the authority to do this under the Constitution anyway, but there are some who disagree. So rather than quibble about legalities, I have filed this legislation. There's no pride of authorship. The Senate is obviously going to debate this. I believe that if you're seeing the polls from today, where 90% of the people of this country are concerned about ISIS, and some huge number want us to go on and attack ISIS in other places than where we are attacking now, then I think it is obvious that the United States is going to have to continue this attack on ISIS. Now, I want to compliment the President often as I have talked about this issue, people have come, or members of the press, and say, well, the president has dilly-dallied and so forth. I don't think he has at all. I think the president indeed has employed a very successful strategy of going after ISIS in Iraq. In fact, stopped their march on Erbil. In fact, stopped their march on the Mosul Dam, and is going after them in other locations in coordination with the Peshmerga of the Kurds as well as the Iraqi army. And indeed, the president started on August the 25th the surveillance flights over Syria so that we can collect the intelligence that is necessary as you prepare to go after them in Syria. But the president has done something more. He has started to put together a coalition, realizing that the American people have no appetite for American boots on the ground in Syria, to put together a coalition so that maybe the Free Syrian Army, maybe other members of the Arab League, maybe some other members of NATO would participate. But the way we drew this resolution, it talks about that there would not be a recurring military presence in the implying of an American army on the ground. It leaves the flexibility that clearly there would be American boots on the ground, just as there already has been when we sent our special operations forces in there to try to rescue the two American journalists that subsequently met such a brutal and uncivil end in their beheading. So American boots have been there, and we might need special operations kinds of missions in the future. We might need forward air observers actually on the ground to direct in airstrikes. So there's flexibility in this resolution. I want to say that if there is anybody with any doubt about the intent of ISIS, they have made it so clear, not only taking the lives of these journalists, the second one of which was from my state of Florida, but in their statements of what they intend to do, setting up an Islamic caliphate. The leader, al-Baghdadi, even calls himself the caliph or religious leader. But they have also said that they will not stop until the black flag of ISIS is hanging and flying over the White House. So their intent is pretty clear. And so we're going to have to deal with them, not only in Iraq as we are now, but elsewhere. And it's going to be sooner or later. Now, it's not going to be a 1 or 2 day operation. The American people, as the president has already indicated, this is going to be a long-term kind of operation. And the fact is that the United States is the one that has to lead the coalition. So to get this right out front and center of what we need to do, I have filed, and it's inserted as a part of the record, the resolution that I am offering to give the legal authorization from the Congress for the president to strike ISIS in Syria, and to do as the president has said, to bring it to a successful conclusion, to stop this horrendous, uncivil, extraordinary kind of inhumane behavior that is being illustrated by these folks. Mr. President, I yield the floor.